Hi, welcome to Bouldersaurus. In this episode, I'll be trying to flash problems on the slab. Enjoy. A flash in bouldering is completing the problem on your first attempt. Here, you're seeing my first attempt of this orange problem with slippery jibs. As you can see, I'm struggling to move my way around this volume to get to this next hold. These holds are very difficult to hold onto, and I'm gripping extra hard to ensure I don't slip. Here's where I make my first major mistake. I don't commit to the move up to the volume. I don't know what these hands will feel like, so I opt to move in a more controlled fashion. This ultimately wastes energy and makes me feel more insecure on the holds. My second mistake is standing up too high. You want to get to the top of the wall, so it makes sense to move yourself upwards. But in this case, I should be trying to get my body lower and to the right, but I lose my balance and fall off. No flash here, but seeing my friends and climbing buddies try the first moves on this climb made me realize that getting through the first sequence was an accomplishment on its own. The hands and feet are both very insecure, and the volume pushes your hips away from the wall, putting much more stress on your fingers. Let's now look at how I climbed this boulder after taking some time to get comfortable with the beta. Let's first look at the hands. You can see I am half crimping these holds for maximum friction. I never use the full crimp, but that's an acceptable option here as well. Let's zoom out to see perhaps the most important part, the feet. Notice, I keep my body to the right of the volume until my hands are ready. I shift my hips around the vertex of the volume to leave myself room to move up to this next hold. I move to the next volume much more dynamically this time. I know I have to move to the right, so I strategically place my left foot to make stepping through easy. The top of this boulder is easy to climb, but perhaps difficult to film with Max walking in front of the camera. I was able to get this climb on the attempt after the flash. It's graded as a V7. From one orange climb to the next, this climb has small crimps and insecure footholds, which, let's be honest, I love. The start of the climb was straightforward, until the move most climbers struggled with, this move to a blocked crimp. The blocker holds on this climb make it hard to use your feet on these holds, so you can see my thought process in the top section as I try to find the most secure foot placement. This blocked hold won't work for a foot, so I opt for a high foot instead, which sets me up for a tricky foot match, which you'll see in just a moment. I try to avoid the foot swap since this is in a very insecure position, but opt to do it anyway. I once again try extra hard to find a stable position for the top hold and end up over-engineering this solution. With a successful flash attempt, there wasn't much to change about my beta. The main difference you'll see now is I am much more decisive about my movements and have to spend a lot less time thinking about what to do next. My goal of this video isn't to necessarily show that I can flash things, but illustrate that a lot of the climbs in my video are the results of a lot of practice. Here's that hard foot swap again, and you can see just how tiny that foothold is. I loved this climb a lot, it suited my style, and it was graded as a V8. Not all boulders are set with the same intention. Some are meant to be endurance challenges, others are meant to be a test of strength, and some are meant to be almost like puzzles with an unclear solution. The last climb was quite straightforward in its approach, but this climb was much more challenging to figure out. I had to speed up the footage since I was trying to figure out how to move to an off-screen hold. My mistake on this flash attempt was trying to follow the intended beta too literally. As you can see, there are two footholds off to the left. I knew they were intended for your feet for a later move, and I didn't think to use them as hands. Even though they were meant to be used for your feet, you as a climber are not obligated to follow the intended beta of a boulder. Finding ways to break the beta to suit your own climbing style is all fair game in indoor bouldering. Let's see what became of this boulder. Unlike the previous climbs, this one took a lot for me to figure out, but once I gave in to the temptation of grabbing a foothold, it all came together. I still can't quite do the intended method, but seeing people struggle to grab this foothold made me feel a bit better about my beta break. The real crux of this climb is the move to the finish hold. Tiny crimps I can deal with, but these low-profile, slippery sloping dishes are a different story. The best thing to do is not really sit around and think about it, and as you can see, I pull hard, reach over, and before I know it, I'm safe and secure on the finish hold. This climb was graded as a V7. Here, you'll see me really working hard to figure out the moves to a climb. This climb is partially set in a dihedral, which is the climbing term for an inside corner. The holds are quite sloped and hard to hold onto, but luckily the opposing forces generated from pressing into the corner add some extra stability. Sometimes I have a clear idea for what moves I will follow on a climb, but I had no idea for this one. This left hand is extremely hard to hold, but somehow I managed to scoot over to this sloper and get into a comfortable pressing position. I am no longer in the inside corner, and now I need to get myself back into a stable position. You can see me thinking about getting my left foot up to a little foot chip on the blue wall, and attempting a mighty straddle. And even though I am flexible, I know better than to try this. The key to this climb was switching feet on this tiny part of this handhold and getting into the scrunched up position. The setter of this climb told me my beta was not intended, and I suspect I ended up making this climb a lot easier than it was supposed to be. This climb got graded as a V9. Even though this climb is easier than the others, it was the one I was most nervous to do my flash attempt on. You can see me really making sure I don't mess up the first move here. I'm much more comfortable on a slab, so slopers on an overhang bring us about less confidence, and with that usually comes less of an effort. But knowing I was on video, I really got in the right mindset to try hard on this boulder. You can see it here as I wind up for this pogo, but make sure to get my momentum just right. I was happy to find that the top of this boulder is a lot easier than the rest, but I still took some extra care to make sure I didn't make any silly mistakes when matching this large finish hold. The first move of this climb is the crux. Given how awkward this right hand position is, how unstable the feet are, and how much it asks of your shoulders. If you're short, the next few moves are super tough as well. This move around the arete is tough since you can't see the hold you're going to. I changed my beta from the flash attempt by bumping my right hand in to make sure the pogo was a lot more controlled. Finally, to avoid foot shuffling at the top, I get a heel hook around the arete to save some steps at the top of this climb. This climb was graded as a V6. This climb was on some cool new dual texture holds. I start the climb with a toe hook since there aren't any other good foot options, before I move up to these two opposing holds. The move to this next hold was tough because it's facing the opposite direction you need to pull on it, so you have to use your shoulders to shift your weight over your feet. I reach out to this left hold, but once again, it's not in the right position I need to get to the finish hold. So instead, I bring both of my hands to the middle hold and press off of it. This gives me enough of a push to get to the finish hold and give me the flash. Not much changed after a few more attempts on this climb to get the beta dialed. I do opt to get a heel hook on the first move instead of a toe hook, as it gives me a bit more mobility in my hips to move to this right hold. My movements on this climb are much more comfortable and precise after some more practice. The main difference in my beta comes from eliminating that left hold that I don't need to use. Since I'm going to be pressing off this middle hold, I get my foot up and give a bit more oomph to my press to glide up to the finish hold to optimize my beta. This climb was graded a V6. I had flash attempts recorded on these last boulders, but they are easy enough that there wasn't anything interesting to glean from those videos. After dodging another in-frame max and pressing through this roof, I have to smear on the wall to get myself to this large foothold, which allows me to press up into this dihedral. The right hand sloper on this climb is super tough to grab, but somehow my fingers were up for the task to make for an easy finish. This sloper was initially not here and made the intended beta for the finish a lot more dynamic and a lot more challenging, as you just saw. This next climb was just so satisfying, and I wanted to include it in my video. I think this is a super well set intermediate climb, and the crux on the top has a very elegant solution. In order to make this crimp usable, you have to shift your weight to the right, which makes the sequence feel effortless. If you don't, the move is a lot harder. I like when climbs have little tricks to make them feel easy. We'll finish things off with this pink crimpy climb. I hope you enjoyed this different format for my video and found it interesting to see me making my flash attempts on some climbs. The next video will be another short beta breakdown, just to give myself some breathing room this week, since it takes a lot of work to produce these longer videos. Thank you so much for watching, let me know what you think in the comments, and, as always, see you again soon.